Hi all, and welcome back to West Isola. As promised in the last video, here's a look at a new thing I've come across called train waybills. I've always been interested in ops on model railroads, and in fact that's what really drew me to American railroads in the first place, in that they seem to have a lot more interest in ops. UK, we don't tend to. Previously, you've seen a video I did. If not, you can have a look at a video I did where I used dice to decide how cars would be moved around on my layout. Currently, I'm using JMRI to do that, which you've probably all heard of. But today, as I say, what we're going to do is we're going to have a look at this new thing I've come across called train waybills. My thoughts about what it's like and whether it's of interest to me or to anybody else. So hopefully you will find something useful in this video. What I won't be doing is doing a full blow-by-blow account of how to set it up and how to use it. I'll be doing an overview of it and how I've sort of worked out how to use it up to now. So what is train waybills? Well, I suppose first of all I'd better tell you what it isn't. Save you time. This isn't a full-blown operations program with all the bells and whistles that you have, for example, like JMRI, where it can run your entire operations on your layout. It's not designed to do that. That's not what this program is about. What it is a cloud-based digitized version of cars and waybills, as you can see on the screen now. There's physical car cards and waybills, which probably anybody who's done American ops has come across and maybe used, or at least seen being used or read about being used. So that's what it's designed to do. It's designed for somebody who's either planning to use car cards and waybills or is already using them. So what it is, it's, as I said, a cloud-based digitized version. So what does that mean? Well, digitized means that instead of having physical car cards and waybills, you have them held on a computer. They're a digital format. So it means you don't have to print them out. You don't have to build boxes to hold the things on your layout. They can't get lost. They can't get dog-eared. Somebody can't walk away with them and take them home, etc., etc. But the fact that it's digitized also gives it some other advantages over a physical based version of this. You can produce a lot of reports because the software knows where the cars are or where it's been told the cars are, and it knows what waybills are assigned to them, etc. You can then build reports out of those, and we'll look at one when we get into the actual software itself. So that's the first thing about it. The other part is it's cloud-based. Now, what does this mean? It means you do not download anything. You don't download and install any software. This thing is run in a web browser on the internet. So what we're looking at here is, for example, is me. I'm on Firefox. I'm actually gone onto this the website called trainwaybills.com, and that's what it does there. So it's a web-based thing rather than a download. Now, what this means is it can be run on any device, whether it's a tablet, a mobile phone, Windows PC, Mac, iPad. It doesn't matter what it is, as long as it's got an internet browser and it can gain access to the internet, then you can use it. So that means if somebody comes over and wants to run on your layout, if they've got their mobile phone, they just go on the connect to your Wi-Fi with more probability, get the web browser up, go on the website, and then you can allow them to use your waybills and your car cards on your layout. When they leave, you can make sure that they can't come back later on and get into it. There are obviously safeguards built into place, but that's the idea about it. It's not determined, like, for example, JMRI, you've got to download it, you've got to install it, etc. So this, you don't have to do that. So that's the basic overview, if you like, of what the program is, what it's trying to do for you. So now what we're going to do is I'll go in and we'll actually start looking at the program itself. Okay, so when you first arrive at the site, the first thing you'll have to do is, if you've never been here before, is register. It's free to register. It takes very little detail. It's basically your email address and that's about it. Once you've registered and that, you can then log in. So we'll log into the site. As you see, it says register for free. Now, don't worry too much about the screens at the moment. I will be going through them. So the first thing I'm going to look at is there's sort of two sides. This side is, if you like, the operations side, the bit that says my name, Lee, with 0 on there. That's the operations side. This side is for setting up and getting everything ready. So once you've done this, you probably wouldn't have to do it again on there. The bit in the middle we'll see later is actually, if you like, a track plan. So let's have a look at the setting up side. As I say, I'm not going to go through in great detail. I'm just going to show you some of the bits and pieces. Now I am using the free version of this. If I go to account and upgrade, you can see the various versions we can get. So what I'm using is this basic account, which gives you limited use. As you can see there, it allows you to have 40 cars on the layout, 2 instructions, etc. So it's limiting what you can have. Uh, Once you get past that and you get to the pay, there's in effect 3 levels of pay: the advanced, the premium, and enterprise. And they basically allow you to have more and more cars, more and more locations, more and more Waybills. But the basic operation of all of them is the same through of each of them. So to say, I'm using the basic account, the free account, which has got some limitations on it. So once you got this, the first thing you do, and we'll go through a little bit at a time, is you create your layout. So give it a name, etc., bits and pieces. I'm not going to go through all the details, but create a layout. You create a map. So these are my locations on mine. I've got Isola Main Yard, which is actually staging, West Isola, and McBain Foods. These are underlined because they are yards. This is a pure switching location. You can, as you can see, basically there. If I just click on there and say edit, I can tell it it's a staging yard, etc. We've got joiners, and you can have junctions on these joiners and so on. So you can have connectors on there, and these connectors can be various shapes. So you can in fact map any layout that you want. Um, Once we've done the map with the locations, we go and then tell it what the tracks we got. So these are my locations, so tracks or spots on there. So we've got as you can see, this limit, I have a freezer door, so that's one spot, and a warehouse track. So one which can take multiple cars. So you can just set them up to whatever you like, whatever way you like. If I just go to edit, you can see on here I've actually told it the freezer door is 70 foot long. I've got a 70-foot space there. If you put 0 in effect, it means it's unlimited. You can have as many cars in there you want on the system. Uh, Isola Main Yard, for example, if I go onto there, this is what I'm using. I'm saying my staging location is unlimited. I can have as many cars in it as you possibly can fit on there. So that's the next thing. Tracks, we've got commodities. So you can set up to have the various commodities in there, and you can put your own in if you've got a pay for account. If you've got a free account, you can't. I don't worry too much about commodities because I'm in effect just moving cars on my layout. But obviously, if you've got requirement, you can set up all your commodities in there and add to them. Then we set up our cars, so we can add a new car or edit existing. So if I quickly just go to edit existing and select a box car, so these are the car cards that I've created using the add new card. If I just go into edit one, these are the details you're basically going to enter in it as you do. The only thing you won't into it is have the waybill information. One slight thing I've noticed is on it is in here you can see you enter a car type called boxcar. That's free text. I've entered boxcar, but you can put in there anything you like, AAR codes or whatever it is. The problem is the system will believe that boxcar or boxcar are different things. They are not the same type of car type, which could cause problems. The image, as it said, is just an image. On there we pick up. Uh, on the paid for versions, you can put photographs in there, so you can. So good for the end scalers. All the rest of the stuff is all the sort of things that you would um, that you would expect to put in on a car. On there, one thing that when you create a new car, you have to give it a current location. And one of the problems is it's got to be on your layout. So in my case, McBainsfield or West Isola, it cannot be in staging, which is a bit strange, but you can work around it because in effect, once you put your cars in, they'll all be on the layout somewhere and you run a fictitious train and their first move will be back into staging. So it is a workaround, but there you go. Next stage we have is we can create waybills. So again, we go to create a waybill, we select the boxcar, and this would be where the problem is. If I've got boxcar without a space and boxcar with a space, the system thinks they're two different types of cars, so I would have to select one. But it's relatively easy to find out what's going on. Now again, I'll go back out of that and go to waybills again and edit existing one and pick one for a boxcar. So these are waybills that I've created for my layout for the boxcar on there, and I've just in effect guessed it. I've just put in commodities of anything really on my layout. But problems because there's a lot of things I use that aren't in the default list, if you like. So we can pick a boxcar, we can search for a waybill, but you see boxcar commodity, where is it, etc. So again, something you couldn't do if you had a if you had physical ones, you can go along here and just do a search for every single get a list of every single waybill that uses a boxcar or a list of every single waybill that carries something. Looking at the waybill, this is an editing one of the ones that I've there. So we've got a boxcar. There's two types of these. So there's two of these waybills. First instruction, it goes to the main yard and it's empty. The second instruction, it goes to main foods, warehouse track, and it's carrying cardboard. The turnaround time is quite useful. You can pick this on your way. You can tell it how fast does this car turn round. So you can set it to take 2 or 3 sessions or 1 session or however long you want it to take to actually get unloaded or loaded, depending on what you're going to do. Now with the free version where you can only do a two-sided waybill, if you've got a paid for, you can do 2, 3, 4, 5 or 6-sided waybills. So you can have quite complex things that are going on there. We can have things called rare waybills. So for example, you could have a waybill that's in there that says it goes to Isola main yard, then it goes to main phones, but then it goes to the rip track or whatever it is you want it to do. And that would only kick in very rarely on the system. So that's the very basic setting up you do. Now, in my instance, it probably took me an hour to set up the entire thing. Admittedly, I don't have a lot of cars and I didn't create a lot of waybills on there. But uh, setting up is very straightforward, I found. The tedious bit, as usual on most systems, is entering the cars and entering the waybills. It would have been nice to have a system that would read CSVs in for your cars because most people uh, might, or quite a lot of people will have already had some form of Excel spreadsheet or something with their cars listed in it. So that would have been a nice option. So we've created all our layouts. Obviously, if you go and have a look at the tutorials, and I will link to all of this stuff down below, it will give you much better details. So now we're actually going to run a train. So if I click on my name up here, this takes me out of the setup part and the um, into the operations side. So here's the operations. At the moment, it's saying I'm me, Lee. Um, I've got 0 cars in my consist. So at the moment, I haven't picked up any cars whatsoever. I can click on the map and go to any location that I want on my layout. I go in there and it'll tell me what's happening there. So for example, McBain Foods has got a box car waiting for pickup. West Isola has got various bits and pieces that are waiting for pickup. But my system, when I do it, I always start in staging. So I go to the main yard, and it's telling me that there's a consist. There are 16 cars, and I've got a track called store. So basically, these are all the cars that I've got in my system. Now I've got a problem. Well, not a problem, but the way my layout is, I've got 16 cars in staging. The maximum amount of cars that my trains can carry is 9. So what I've got to do first of all is I've got to build an outbound consist. So I click on my name and it's telling me the various things. So if I go to operations, it will allow me to pull all 16 cars, which I don't want to do. Go back to there. It tells me at the moment I don't have a consist. It tells me I have one consist that is sat in the storage yard, which is the way I do things. And then if I go on here, it will tell me all the cars that are actually sat there. Now, this is the first thing that I find a little bit um, uh, not so much for my, perhaps for my layout. So the first thing I have to do is, out of these 16 cars that are sat there, I've got to pick 9 at the most for my train, because that's the most my trains can. The maximum length of my train is about 9 cars. So I've now got to go through these and decide which ones of these I'm actually going to pull to go to things. So what I'm going to do is I'll go down there and I'll just pull some at random. Now, if I look along here, every single one of these cars is going to West Isola. There are no cars that are going to make Bain food. So that's something I want. Normally, if there were cars in here, what Waybills, with cars with Waybills going out, then I would do it. So I'm just going to pull some cars. So just click on the bit that says pull. And if I look up here, it says I've got 5 cars now in my consist. If I do a report, it will tell me some information about where the destination that this is going to. So this car is supposed to be going to Team Track to West Ilola. It's telling me the track is 132. There are off spots. There are no cars spotted there at the moment. So it's telling me I've got a 432, and so on and so forth. But what it is telling me is that in this train that I've just got, there are 3 cars all going the um, to the system. 2 are in transit, which are at the main yard, and 1 is in store. So there is possible to have 3 cars in here. So I could possibly overload it, but we'll leave it at that. So I'm just going to go for a straight 5 cars. So now I've picked out what cars I'm taking. So in my operations, I would then build the train in staging with those 5 cars in it and whatever engine I fancy. And then I would get the controller and off we go. So now my next part of my operations is, is at West Isola. So I click on West Isola. It's telling me these are all the cars that are waiting to be pick up at West Isola. So the green ones are the cars where they are at the moment and that they need picking up. And then the red ones are the ones that are going to get set out at West Isola. So they're actually the ones that are in my train. So the train's now there, and I could work West Isola. So I could set out and pick up the cars. So here we go. I'm going to set them out, 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 and then I'm going to pick up all the ones that are going out. So I've now got 5 in my system on there. There's nothing. Sorry, there's nothing left there of the operations. No cars processing because I've just picked them all up and dropped them all off. In my consist, I've got all of these. Okay, on there. So it's telling me what there. So for example, these are all returning empty. This is the Waybill side, and this is telling me that this gondola has got scrap metal in it. So that's go on there. So what I would do is I would look at that and say, right, they're all going to the main yard at Isola on there. But I know, because I saw earlier, that there is actually something waiting at my Bain Foods. So if I go to Bain Foods, I've got a box car to pick up. So I can pick that box car up. Notice this has now increased to 6. And I can go back to West Isola. Still nothing requires classification. Obviously, if I'd picked something up at McBain that was due to be dropped off at West Isola, then it would appear there as a drop off. So now if I go back to the main yard, it's telling me I've got a consist here which is cars in the consist is 6. That's the ones I've just brought in, and I've still got 11 cars in stages. So I can park this consist now and drop it off. So I can put it into the store and say there. Now it's telling me I've got 17 cars. So my next operation would be to click on there and go in there and start pulling the cars again, ready to build my next consist. And I can go along and say, oh, I got one there going to McBain Foods and so on and so forth. Now, if I was doing this, if you like, on a multi user layout, what I could do, for example, and I'll just roughly do it, pull these cars. Okay, so I've got 6 cars, but what I'm going to do now is I'm going to take this consist, oops, sorry, I'm going to take this, my consist, and I'm going to park it in the outbound track. So now it says I've got 6 cars in the outbound track and 11 cars in the storage. So what this could be is that another user on my layout could log in, go to there, and I could say to him as the yardmaster, okay, the train you're taking is the one that's parked in the outbound track, and the user could come along with, it'd be a different name here, he'd be on his mobile phone or whatever it was he was using, and he would come along there and go pull consist, and he would now have the consist and away he'd go and work it. So we could, for example, in the main yard, I could have several tracks, several tracks set up, and different users could come in and pull cars from pull the consist after I've built. So that's the very basic overview of how this thing works. Not in huge detail. I just wanted to give you a flavour of what it was all about. So I suppose the questions for me is what did I think of it, and where would I think it was useful, and will I be using it in the future? So first of all, I want to say there is no best or worst operation software. It depends entirely on what it is you want to do with it. Okay, so that's the first thing. I believe if you are going to use or are using car cards and waybills, this would be, for me, an absolute no-brainer. If you're running a layout and you've got multiple users or even a single, 2 or 3 users, and you're using car cars and waybills, this is brilliant. As I say, you lose all the problems of having physical ones that lost, stolen, damaged, whatever. You lose all those problems. You don't have to carry wadges of waybills around. So, for example, if you've got, I don't know, a manifest freight, and that manifest freight has got 37 cars in it, that's 37 car cards with waybills you've got. That obviously you've got to hold them and sort them and all the rest of it. This you would do it all for you electronically, as long as you've got some form of access onto to the website on the internet through a browser. So a phone, tablet, whatever it might be that you want to use. So nowadays you can get old 3G, 2G phone or 3G phones really cheaply because nobody uses them anymore, and just use it as a web browser and give that to users or whatever. So for that, this I think is brilliant. I would love to operate on a large layout that uses this. Well, I would just love to do it. It would it's say as aim. Unfortunately, here in the UK, few and far between people who use these layouts and getting on there. So that's the first thing. The way I liken this is that with something like JMI or the DICE system, you are the engineer stroke conductor, and the JMRI and the DICE are the yardmaster. They're building the train for you, and then you come along and get the train, and away you go and deliver the cars where you're told to deliver them by whatever system you're using. With this, you are the yard master as well. You have to build the trains and decide what waybills you're going to move in this particular session. So you would have to do that. Obviously, you've got a lot of help with things like reports. And in fact, that's something I didn't show you, so I'll quickly show you now. Here's the various reports you can get on the system. Now, because I'm only using the free version, the only report I can see is this thing called a car report. So if I click on there, and basically it's a list of every single car, there, as you can see, the details, where they are at the moment, what's happening to them and where and what they're carrying. So this would be ideal as a checklist. You could go down here because you can print it off at the bottom to tell you where every single car in your layout is, where the waybill system thinks it actually is, without having to go through every single waybill. You can just print this out, go and tick them off and say, yeah, this reefer is at the freezer door at my Bain Foods, and it's preparing to be picked up, and so on. So that's an example of the reports. There are others, but as I say, you don't. For the free version, you don't get them. So there's a lot of reports you can do. But that's what you're doing. You're going to have to make the decision what cars are going in this particular train on there, and then the person driving the train or the crew taking the train will then use the waybills to work it out. So for that, I think it's brilliant. For me, personally, on my layout, I wouldn't be using this. The reason is because I do not want to make that decision. Okay, I do not want to spend time, for example, at the beginning of every session deciding what deciding what cars I want to put in my train. I mean, I said to somebody, I think I've got about 140 cars on my in my layout on my collection. Obviously, frightening when you look at it, but I've got about 140 cars on a layout that probably, if I filled every single spot on the layout, could only take 25 cars at the absolute most, and that leaves about 100 odd cars sat in staging. If I have to go through 100 odd cars looking to see which ones I fancy using this time, um, it it would take too long for me. I don't want to do that. JRMI is for me is really good because it randomly picks the cars and it knows the maximum length for train. I've also put in a minimum it can have, so it will do something in between. So I get a random number of cars going to a random number of random locations on my layout. With JMI, I'm just the engineer who comes along, picks up the train, and away I go. So that's my reasoning about why I won't use this. I think for a small layout, it a one-person small layout, it probably isn't necessarily the best solution. But as I said earlier, I would love to use this on a proper large layout and run, 30 car trains with all the bits and pieces, stopping at multiple locations and switching the multiple locations. It would be wonderful, and I wouldn't be and as a user going to somebody else's layout, I wouldn't be worried about dropping them all, losing them, or anything else. Putting them in the wrong place, leaning them on the layout when I'm not supposed to, put them in the rock boxes or whatever it may be. So, absolutely brilliant. The one thing I will be doing is I will be keeping an eye on this. I will come back to this every now and again. I've built my layout. It's already in there. I've put some car cards in. It will automatically update every time Steve, who's the guy who does this, who's actually British, would you believe? Um, it will update automatically. So as he adds things to it, I can come back, revisit it, and have another look at it. But as I say, for somebody who's got a big layout, I would highly recommend this. Um, and they go, so I hope this has been of some use and of some interest. As usual, I'll put links down below to all the various things they're doing and some tutorials and also some, I think, second podcast discussions that were on about this. I'll put the links into those. And if you've got any questions for me, well, ask away and I'll see if I can answer them. So thanks again for watching and hope it's been of some use and I'll see you soon.